Meeting on Thursday, July 9th at 9:30 a.m. Please silence your cell phones. Mr. Hart, please call the roll.
Member Bobby,
Present.
Member Axelrod,
Present.
Member Mendelson,
Present.
Member Powell,
Present.
Vice Chairperson David,
Present.
Chairperson Rosen,
Present.
Town Attorney Rubin,
Present.
and Roger Brown is absent. Thank you.
All rise. We shall do the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Is there a call for a motion to accept the agenda as presented?
So moved.
Second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Moving on. Are there any corrections to the minutes from June 11th, 2026?
No.
Hearing none, may I have a motion to approve the minutes as presented?
Motion to approve the minutes as presented.
Second,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? All right. There's no swearing in of the public since there's nobody here.
No, public.
Unfinished business, the proposed ordinance regarding the encroachment of a hard surface beyond the property line in order to provide access to a seawall, dock, or abutting intracoastal waterway beach area. Recommendation to the town commission. I refer this item to town planner, Ms. Allen.
Hey, well, good morning. Ingrid Allen, Town Planner. I thought it's on August 14th of 2025, the planning board, you all made a recommendation to the commission to amend the code to allow for hard surfaces past the property line to adopt. That's the way the motion read. And the ordinance before you addresses that by this access to the hard surface. A board member, Bobby, who was the sponsor of the amendment, suggested this narrative that he wanted to expand on that initial recommendation by the board to allow hard surfaces to a beach edge located outside the owner's property line. Now, this would be specific to properties that are along or abutting the intracoastal waterway. And again, the ordinance addresses that to your ordinance. On February 3rd of 2026, the commission instituted an introduction to the code amendment. They did not have an ordinance before them, which is a pure concept. The motion was to have the planning board pick up the issue and review it. Consistent with the ordinance process flow chart, staff then prepared the draft ordinance, which is for you today. And I do want to know there's been no change to the ordinance since you all initially saw it at the May 2026 vaccine. Now, the hard surface recommendation, if you recall, was as a result of a special exception that was approved for the property at 2564 South Ocean Boulevard. A dock and a boat lift. Now, the seawall cap commenced. And that's not typically what we see for seawalls, especially when there's not an existing seawall. Theirs do not have an existing seawall. What we typically see is a seawall at the property line, or more typically, you have an existing seawall that remains 18 inches in front of it. You have the new. Now, the code allows hard surfaces to the property line, or the seawall, whichever is for the landward. Property line was for their landward. So as a result, staff put those conditions and they provide sound knowledge. Again, it's not something common that we see. Property line, seawall cap was 2 feet, and then the seawall from the property line was 3 feet 5 inches. Don't see that. Now I have have a PowerPoint with that diagram. If you all like to take a, show you those once again as a little pressure on the.
Please.
Yes. Pressure.
So here's the 25. This is what started it all. Let me, a little pointer here.
you'll see here is the property line, okay? Here is the cap. So this is the 2 feet that I was mentioning earlier.
Mhm.
That's where their cap starts. Here you have the measurement from the property line.
To the seawall, the new one is 3 feet 5 inches. So then obviously this area, is beyond the property line. This is where we asked them to do the sod or the artificial turf. And, this is just showing their existing condition. Remember, they had a riprap, and these were going to be removed. I referenced in your memorandum, we asked the applicant during development review, why aren't you putting the seawall right at the property line? There's no existing seawall there, but they wanted to follow this rock riprap. So, again, the code doesn't require, when you put in a seawall, it's a seawall cap and dock at a maximum of 8 feet.
Mhm.
It's not measured from any particular point. And then here we have the other seawall designs that we see. This is 4203 Tranquility. This is typically what we see, right? This is an existing seawall. Here's the property line up here. I know it's a little bit hard to see, but it's in your packet as well. This is an existing seawall and cap that's going to remain. And then here's a new seawall. So there's obviously going to be a little bit of a gap. You can't put a new seawall on top of an existing seawall. As you all know, FDP allows the new seawall to be 18 inches above. So we have, it's reasonable to allow people to put a surface there. The building official has advised me some people have put hard surfaces, some have put porous, pervious surfaces. Again, it's reasonable to do that. And then here we have another example of another seawall that we've seen, 4320 Intracoastal. Their seawall, their original seawall, it's still there, was actually within their property line, okay? And then they put their new seawall, you could see their cap, part of their cap is actually on their property line, and the seawall itself is along the property line. So we have instances like that. I know in Belito, we've seen some seawalls that are within the property line. So just to give you all a little bit of perspective there. I'll go ahead and move on to Bobby. I know that he had some additional comments that were in your packet, so I'll give him the floor if you.
Chair, do you want me to go through my comments or do you want to say something first?
Why don't you summarize your comments really short, and
Okay.
then we can, since we have no public comment, if anybody else has any questions, but why don't you go
Great.
first, right?
Great. I did send out a little packet to everybody. So hopefully you had a chance to look through that. My reason for writing all that is I was just trying to avoid any unintended consequences. So there is this 18-inch rule, which I think is a good rule. So it stops someone from building a wall in front of a wall, in front of a wall, in front of a wall. And I'm not sure if the 18 inches fully applies to us, meaning could someone in Highland Beach do a wall in front of a wall, in front of a wall, in front of a wall. But I had pulled some Jupiter language I thought was really interesting, where they allow a one-time only 18 inches out front. And the most important thing that I sent around was really some graphs, because the original language that was in this ordinance really didn't address certain things. One thing, when a property is set back versus its surrounding properties. If it's set back and it's moving it out a little further, just to match the line, the water line of the surrounding properties, there's not really a privacy issue. That's one thing. But more importantly, on the 18 inches, if you put a wall 18-inch further out in front of the existing wall, a seawall cap is 24 inches wide. So it's 12 on either side. So we're talking about a 6-inch strip of land that we're making a big deal out of. I don't think for a 6-inch strip of land, we should tell them they've got to do grass. Now, if someone says, if there's some special exception or a special situation where someone's putting a wall really far out, okay, makes sense. Let's have something that has to do with pervious surfaces, grass, sod, something like that. But for a 6-inch strip, it seems kind of silly to make a rule to require it to be impervious. And that was the whole point of why I was trying to show these illustrations.
Thank you. Does
I have
anybody,
a question. I'm like, I don't know much about this. So what, are you trying to amend the ordinance that's in front of us that we're voting on, or what, and change it somehow? I mean, and if you were, like, what would the words be? Because I'm much better with words.
Sure. So my thought was, yes, to amend and expand the ordinance to leverage the language in Jupiter that seems to be working pretty well, which is everyone can have if we're allowed to do this, and if, the attorney says we're allowed to do this, but you're allowed to do a one-time new seawall in front of an old seawall, as much as 18 inches out. And if there is that little strip of land that's 6 inches, we're not going to require that to be sod. But if you're going anywhere beyond that, then we can go with what the ordinance says. That was my point.
Okay. Ingrid, you said something about FDP and seawalls. Does it affect what he just said?
Back in September, we had the issue with the Senate Bill 180. We can't be more restrictive. So this issue of the seawall restricted that. So we can't make any type of amendment 7 by the Senate bill.
Okay.
What's before you was reviewed by Mr. Rubin for legal sufficiency, and there's not the issue of being more restrictive with you.
So am I correct if I said this is good for now? And if in 2027, when we're allowed to be more restrictive, we want to revisit it and then put in your language, we could do that. But I don't see how you could violate what you can't do for now.
Right, and if we can't do the Jupiter rule now because of Senate Bill 180, that's fine. But one of the things we still can do is say, okay, if there is this 6-inch strip of land, if you're within inside of the 18 inches of the new seawall, and you're going to have this 6-inch strip, and by the way, if they have a wider cap, they might have no strip at all. We're not going to make that impervious, but anything beyond that, which is a pretty standard thing, we're going to require it to be impervious. Because right now we have a ordinance that requires something a bit ridiculous, like literally a strip this wide of grass.
Realistically, are there any owners trying to do this right now that would be trying to do it before 2027?
That one example that I showed you where you have an existing seawall and then a new one within 18. I've discussed this with the reasonable to let people to put a hard surface there. Again, we haven't
Mhm.
Okay,
a per surface there. So we're allowing that because it's reasonable. There's an existing seawall there.
so
just
the
the
point
reality.
is that this language in this ordinance allows for, I'll call it your 6-inch concern because it is reasonable. Is that correct?
No, it's actually,
Doesn't
it's the
address it.
opposite.
Right.
Exactly. Well, but my point is, the ordinance doesn't address it, but there's enough discretion from the building department in order to address it.
I think it's the opposite, Ingrid. Please correct me. But I believe if the ordinance language is held to the exact language and someone puts an 18-inch new wall out in front of an existing wall.
No, I get that. I understand that part. But if there's just one little piece, the question is, and Len, maybe I'll hit you.
I think the issue is we've allowed it now, as member Bobby said, technically the code does not allow it. So even if it is 6 inches, according to how the code, excuse me, reads now, you would have to have it couldn't be a hard surface.
So let me ask you this, should we just defer? Well, I guess my question is, it's July.
Mhm.
And should we just defer this? Len, is there a downside? I guess I'm asking from a legal standpoint as well as a practical standpoint. Is there a reason to go through with this right now, or should we agree to defer?
I mean, this was something that everyone decided to move forward with. So Ingrid wants to.
If I could just add.
Help
remember
me.
the Motion that you all initially made, that you wanted access to a dock via hard surface.
Right.
So that was what's provided. Then Mr. Bobby wanted to expand upon that and add some sort of access outside the property line to a beach area. So now this is a whole other component of it, where again, it could wait till 2027. But what was the actual recommendation? It's in there, and that was the initial, that's that 2564 property is what initiated all
Okay.
that.
So just
Access to a dock.
to clarify, if we do this right now, essentially, no harm, no foul, we're doing exactly what we said we wanted to do. And then when 2027 comes in and the new Senate bill is in effect, we can create a new issue to either amend or supplant this?
I mean, you
There's
could always-
a simpler, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead. Well, I was just gonna say, you could always amend it later, but go ahead.
There's an even more elegant, simple solution on this, which is most of the language is great. However, we just add in there that if the wall is 18 inches in front of an existing wall and you have a 6-inch strip of land, we're not going to require that 6-inch strip of land to be.
But the difficulty with that, Greg, is what if it's 6.5?
Right.
Well, what if
It's
it's
gonna
7?
narrow.
Okay, and that from a, I hate to use this, but from a drafting standpoint,
Right.
that's sort of an
Right.
unmitigated disaster.
Or you measured it from a slightly
Uh,
different place.
So I guess my suggestion is, and I look for input from everybody else, is that we approve this ordinance as it is and agree to put an amendment on the agenda when the new Senate bill is in effect, which I assume is January 1st?
No, it's through October of 2027, October 1.
So a year and a
October
half.
1. Okay, so basically, we do this now and then amend when we can. I just have a big concern, which I think others may, that when you put in a specific number, if you're a little bit off or you measure a little bit wrong, you're going to have issues.
I think your logic is sound in that. However, I hate ordinances with silly unintended consequences. So
And-
there is probably a more elegant way to fix this because a lot of the language, again, does make sense. But there's some stuff in here that is, I mean, there's no other way to say it, stupid.
Greg, I have an issue with, what do you mean when you say you want a hard surface going down to a beach? Because the beach is going to be lower. So to me, that's going to be a staircase going down.
Correct. So what it
And that
is,
would be the only thing that should be hard,
Correct.
because you got to be far enough away for your boat.
so the beach is a bad definition. It's not a beach. So what Ingrid was reflecting on that property is it's riprap, right? Rocks, a rock area, like the piece, the property she showed up there. So yes, there would be a stairway that would go down into the water or something like that, and having a hard surface to get you to the stairway. That's what we're talking about. But again, that's a
But
one odd
okay.
consequence in the.
But I
that's
also
not-
have an issue with going 3 feet out beyond the seawall.
But no one's debating that.
I mean,
I'm-
to me, that's adding 3 feet all across the front of your property.
I'm not debating that either if it is out beyond everyone else, right? If for some reason that property is way set back to the two surrounding properties and they're just coming out to where the other properties are, that doesn't seem like that's that big of a deal.
It's a lot of things to write.
Correct.
If this. What if you just right now make it how it was the issue, that if you had a dock and you wanted to walk on a hard surface to the dock, why don't we just put it back to where it was? And then next year, when you can do it, we can take, and you can take out all the stuff that you don't think makes sense, and then you'll go, well, what about this and stairs and this and that? That way it'll be real simple for the dock on a hard surface. And then we can address it, or you guys can address it next year when you're
So-
allowed to.
Let me just follow up. Does that mean, Eileen, that you are recommending that we approve this in its present form?
No, I would approve it with just the dock, because that
Just the
seems.
beach
that-
part.
Dock
No, not
access?
the
The
dock access, yeah.
Dock
Like if
access.
you have I mean, even I, who don't even deal with this stuff, can understand if your property ends here and your dock is over here, you might want to walk on something
Right.
that your feet weren't sinking into, right? I mean, that's the point? Okay.
Right. So right now, that's what it provides for. Either to get to a dock, to get to a seawall or a seawall and a dock combo, or to get
Point.
a stairway to some sort of
It does it.
beach area.
So it does more than just a dock.
Yeah. So
Right
right
now.
now it says dock, seawall, beach area.
You just made a dock right now, and then we could debate all the other stuff.
Well, I think you'd want to include seawall too, because sometimes people use their seawall in combination with the dock.
Okay.
I mean, you can take out the beach if you want. But again, I don't know.
But if you
Do we
do
have
the-
anyone with a beach?
If you take out.
Well, technically,
It must be
property,
some-
Anchorage.
Yeah, it's
showed up.
like
The
river.
definition of beach.
Yeah, I guess.
If it's not harming anybody, I guess the question is, do you delay this yet again another 30 days for an edit? Or do you approve it as is, knowing that beach is kind of immaterial?
You approve it and say with the edit that,
No,
no.
can't do that. Got to vote again. So with
You-
that said,
I think you could do the edit, Mr. Rubin, couldn't they do the edit in their motion?
Absolutely.
Edit the ordinance?
Yeah, if there's something you want to change, that you can do your motion to approve subject to whatever the changes you might want, might want to make.
do you want to do that?
And Ingrid, I'm gonna just add, oh, sorry, you had something. to say? Okay. There was also in this ordinance, the measurement from the property line. We were talking about all that. That was another issue that I brought up as well.
Doc?
So there's a bunch of unintended consequences in this
I
ordinance.
guess my concern is to edit on the fly
It's a bad idea for this one.
is not a good idea.
Yeah.
So to me, the question is, do we approve this right now, subject to amending as we go forward, knowing that it has to come back up? Or do we not approve this right now and leave it open and essentially up to people coming to the building department and seeking, I guess, an exception that we would then have to address as part of planning?
Yeah, and listen, it's a tough one too, because there is a bunch of stuff in here beyond, forget the 18 inches, but even beyond that, Ingrid was working to change something on where we measure from. She's actually looking to change it
I don't think.
different from what we all discussed in the original working group meetings. So I don't think she realized why we said it the way we did originally.
So
So
Greg,
there's measurement problems in here
so
too.
Greg, I guess I'm asking, what is your opinion? Do we wait or do we approve this knowing that we're coming back? Because if you're suggesting that there's more than one edit, I personally think that
wait.
that's a massive disaster to try and edit on the fly.
I completely agree with you. I think about this stuff all the time and I wouldn't even want to take a crack at that. So my opinion is ready, aim, fire, not ready, fire, aim, and take the time, get it right, address these any consequences, and then let's approve
So
something.
your suggestion is you would vote against this at this point?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
I don't know that I would be, yes, I agree that it would be too cumbersome to try to like on the fly change language. I don't know in its current format that I would vote for it either. And I have one other comment to add. Have we ever defined, or does this define anywhere what exactly a hard surface is? Because, compacted
Good
dirt.
question.
Compacted dirt, is that a hard surface? I don't think so.
Yeah,
It's compacted gravel, a hard surface, because you can use certain types of gravel, compact it, and it will play like a hard surface, yet it's not a fixed surface.
Define hard surface, but if you look at page 11 in the ordinance.
where it says, section 30-66C1A, it says walkways, patios, and other hard surfaces for walking, gathering, sitting. So it's a description, but, I wouldn't necessarily say per se a definition, but
Well, if I just think about like, I don't know, you go to a park with walking trails.
Yeah.
There are ones that are just compacted dirt.
Right.
There are ones that have dirt with, I don't know, mulch on it. There are ones that are just compacted gravel, and then there are ones that are asphalted. And so what is the definition? And there are ones that are just grass. So
And the
which is-
rubber pervious ones now too, where it's like
Sure.
rubber, but actually takes water through.
So I'm just, just trying to avoid, again, confusion about do we need to define what is a
Yeah.
hard surface? Is it, some type of a fixed hard piece that doesn't come apart like concrete?
well, it does continue on. It talks about
Right, it could be
non-pervious,
pervious or not.
non-porous based materials, although porous pervious based materials are encouraged.
Okay,
Provision gets in a little bit of detail there.
Are there any other
To me,
comments?
It seems to me that approving this and then changing all these
Makes no
changes
sense.
is a mistake. I think we have to hold and get to all these changes and then approve everything. So I would vote against it also.
Okay. Any other comments?
No, I agree that I would vote against it now because
So the
you
real
only
issue,
put it into effect if you know you're going to change it. And if there are things in the pipeline that might want to be added in, otherwise you wind up with a hodgepodge and nothing works.
Exactly.
so the real issue is, do we call it for a vote and ask whether anybody would vote to recommend this? And then we all vote the way we want.
Wouldn't it be better to like delay it? Yeah, and
Again?
let Ingrid's department work on it and bring it back and see if there's something that we could accept, because
Well,
And I'm happy to do
the
working
record
with Dana
that
and work
you
with it.
rejected, it le-
I guess the problem is, this is the third extension. And I
Is there a
just,
limit?
No. but
no,
there's no limit. But the question is what it is that we really want to approve. And what I'm hearing, and correct me if I'm wrong, Len, what I'm hearing is much of what would be desirable can't be done until the new statute is in effect.
well, you couldn't do that 18-inch limitation,
Right.
until the statute expires. But what I'm a little confused about is what do you want? I understand what Mr. Bobby wants to use, but what do the rest of you agree with Mr. Bobby's changes or is there something else that you're concerned about? Before we can redraft, we need direction.
I'm concerned, it's not that I'm concerned with Mr. Bobby's changes. I think it's so definitional what he's asking to change that it needs a lot of work to figure out what it is he wants to change, put in a statute language. That, because
Chair, I would humbly request, Ingrid and I have done working groups in the past on these things where we just sat down and figured out, okay, this is something makes total sense. This is something we got to deal with. We could actually then bring it back and say, these are the things that are obvious that are great. These are the things that are challenges. Let's take them one by one. What do we want to do? And then we actually come out with a real good ordinance.
So I guess from a procedural standpoint, Len,
Yes, ma'am.
do we defer for
You can
that?
continue it yet again if that's the board's desire. You can continue it another month and allow time to maybe
For
come up
another
with,
2 months because,
or number 2 months, however long you want to. But
Yeah.
If Ingrid's willing to sit down and work on it with me, I'd love to do it.
does anybody disagree with that approach?
No,
David,
but I
you
wouldn't do it.
Yeah.
I don't other than Ingrid, she
Not telling.
I'm just looking at the access that's in the ordinance.
right.
Right. I think
The issue
the
of the
needs have
yeah,
changed.
Yeah, and that's fine. And that's fine. Again, we have Mr. Bobby's narrative, which clearly, his initial narrative, which kind of dictates how
So-
it's played out. But if you all, again, don't agree, then, we can move
So
forward accordingly.
rather than vote to not approve this, can we all vote, Mr. Hart, to adjourn and wait for amendments? Len?
Or do you want to continue it to next month or do you want to just not take any action and have us bring it back?
I would bring it back next year.
Then we'd have to re-advertise. Yeah, we don't need a motion. Then when it comes back, we could just re-advertise it. That's fine.
All right.
If that's
So
the
let's
board's desire.
do that. We'll send it back for a working group and re-advertise. And there being no new business under announcements, the next meeting is scheduled for August 13th, 2026 at 9:30 a.m. This meeting is adjourned as of 9:59.